There's one major hurdle that I've seen companies battle over and over again as we've tried to help them through this inbound marketing landscape. Today, we're going to talk about how it is actually not that hard and how HubSpot has made it super creative. You know what time it is.
Are you a HubSpot user looking for fun and interactive education that helps you be better at HubSpot? Then welcome to Sprocket Talk.
So the major hurdle, the thing that companies keep spinning their wheels on, well, it's buyer personas. And today we're going to look at the reimagined, the rebuilt, the very creative buildmypersona.com tool that HubSpot has built. And I'm also going to give you thoughts along the way in addition to what they show or teach in the tool. And I'm going to show you how to navigate this tool like a pro. So if you're sitting there and don't have buyer personas, well, in a matter of minutes, you will. Let's go ahead and dive into this. So here we are at HubSpot's tool, and I'll put a link in the description below, but we have a couple things that we can do. First of all, before we get into making the persona, we're going to actually dive into what they've done with what is a buyer persona. So what is a buyer persona? You can learn more by clicking this Learn More. It's going to take you through a really neat experience where it actually says what is a buyer persona, and it gives you the typical, it's a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on marketing research and real data about your existing customers. Now, the part that I'll add to this is that, well, they're real humans with real problems that hopefully you solve. Also, the other thing I will say is that there are positive personas and negative personas. Look, knowing who you can't help is maybe more impactful and powerful for your business than who you can help, although both of them are super important. So as we continue on, you're going to see that you have some navigational dots down here, or you can just click the typical next. I'm going to go ahead and engage with the dots, and you'll see why use a buyer persona. HubSpot talks about a buyer persona provides structure and context for your company, making it easier to map out content, allocate your team's time and resources, and achieve alignment across your organization. Some of that is like, what do you even mean? Or it's so high level that it's not actionable. Look, why use buyer personas? Because you should be segmenting your database to have the right conversation with the right people at the right time. You also need to be triggering different actions based upon that segmentation. Buyer personas is honestly the foundational piece of how you can get super qualified leads. There's an entire thing I teach with clients on the 4 pillars of super qualified sales leads. Anyway, not what this video is about. Let's continue on with the tool. So as we move on, you're going to see how should I use a persona, and they talk about learning about your ideal customer, their challenges, their goals, their demographic traits, and so on. Help you set a strategy aimed to attracting the most valuable visitors, leads, and customers to your business. I kind of just hit on that a minute ago. Right person, right time, right message, right solution to the problem that they're facing, but also it allows you to understand the person at a higher level. Look, if you want to know what is the major problem of a certain segment of your database persona, you'll be able to do that, but only if you have them in place. If you want to send out a message to people who are not a good fit, negative personas, you'll be able to do that as well, but only if you have them in place. There's something super special about being able to go into HubSpot, go into that sidebar or the timeline and get the lead intelligence on 3, 5, 7 buyer personas, where you can truly start to understand who they are, build out a story, and really know, hey, I'm about to get on a call with this type of person, or I'm about to create a piece of content for this type of person. Anyway, let's continue on. So last but not least on these slides, how do I create the persona? And if you're ready to put this in place, then you can go ahead and download now this tool that they have if you want to download it. If you do, it pops up this nice form. I totally love the way that this form interacts, and they've even got John Smith and all sorts of good stuff like that. But what you're gonna wanna do is hit a back button. I'll show you here in a second, and you're gonna wanna run through the process, because because it's super slick, it's engaging, there's little noises, there's motion, and you learn along the way. So let's go ahead and dive back in to this awesome persona tool. So as we dive back in, you can see that there is return to the home page. That's exactly where we want to go. And we're going to see that we have make my persona tool over here, and we can actually build a persona right here instead of downloading the toolkit from the learn more section that we just covered. When we go into here, it's going to give us some steps, and you'll see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps. 7 steps? That's simple. Anyway, 7 steps, and we can always skip the walkthrough method. Now, we'll talk about this skip the walkthrough method here in a hot minute, but why is this step important? Why do we want to have an avatar? Which, by the way, these avatars are cool, and there are a lot of places in this tool that you can scroll and get more information. I'm going to go ahead and grab this nerdy dude with glasses because, I don't know, it's pretty cool. Andy just winked at me. That made it even cooler. But then I'm going to name my persona. Now, HubSpot does start to teach us right here about this whole concept. And it says start by choosing a name to humanize your buyer persona. Both the name and the avatar you select will help you start thinking about this person like a real person. HubSpot's pro tip here is consider naming your buyer persona with their industry in mind to make it easier to remember, like Marketing Mary or Finance Fred. Now, one thing I'll say is, yes, industry is good, but really it can be any type of specifier. Remember that, any type of specifier. And then the only reason we're naming a name or using a name is, yes, we need to start thinking of them as a human. But one big warning. It can't just be Chris. It's got to be a group of Chris's or a group of Craigs. You have to think of them as a group of people that have similar challenges or have similar roles or have similar goals for what your product or service might provide. Okay, let's go ahead and dive back in. So once we do that, and let's go ahead and click in here and name our persona. And in this case, we'll do Dairy Guy Dan. I don't know, maybe I'm thirsty for milk. But then we will go ahead and we will hit the next step. Now they're gonna ask us some demographic traits, like how old are they? HubSpot says, why is this important? Because collecting demographic information about your buyer persona allows you to paint a clear, more personal picture of your customer. More specifically, factors such as age and education can help you better position your marketing message to ensure it resonates. Pro tip, remember, it's a group of people, so we don't have to say that they're 18 and 6 months or 24 and 2 months. We're just trying to get a range. So as we try to get a range, we can just scroll this little thing to the side. We're gonna say they are 45 to 54. We're looking for the older generation of dairy farmers with this persona that we are targeting. What is the highest degree or level of school your persona has completed? We can take a guesstimate or an average of some research that we've done. Wait a second. Yes, one of the things that you might want to have done before you hop into this persona tool is have done a little bit of research. Do 5 out of 7 dairy farmers go to college? Do 3 out of 7 dairy farmers go to college or graduate high school? You need to have some of this information at your fingertips. So we're going to go ahead and say that they have an associate's degree because they have gone to some type of dairy college or college in general to educate themselves past high school. They really don't need college. Like, dairy farmers are inherently just smart people. I mean, they deal with animals all day long. Moving forward, we're going to go ahead and hit the next button, and it is about their business. Why is this step important? Because of all of the same reasons as probably most of these steps, is the more you know, the better you understand, and the easier you're going to start to figure out the pain points. But HubSpot says, want more qualified leads? Then knowing details about your buyer persona's business will come in handy when you're building fields for your landing page forms. Factors like industry and company size also help you understand how many hats this person might be wearing on a daily basis or how competitive their market is. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and click industry, and what we can do is we can scroll down. That's not inherently seen at first, but once you start to scroll down, you can see that. Also, also what would be nice, and this is a wish list item, is if I would have search functionality and could type in dairy, but in this case, just for time, and I see food and beverage, we'll click that one. Notice how that graphic changed. That was actually cool. Let me show you that again. If I did agriculture, that might be better. Let's do that one, and we'll leave that. What size is the organization? Well, it's probably the dairy farmer, and of course their kids, because dairy farmers' kids, well, they work. Let me tell you, they work. So we're gonna go that they have 1 to 10 employees, because they probably have 5 to 6 kids and a wife. Once we get past that step, we can go ahead and hit this button, and we can see that what is their job title, how is their job measured, and who do they report to. Let me go ahead and fill that out real quick with some fun information. So as you can see, for our dairy farmer, Dan, we've got that he is a farm management specialist, that he is measured by the amount of milk and crops created yearly. And who does he report to? Well, probably his wife, Mother Nature, and God himself. Let's move on. So in the next step, it is all about the characteristics of their job. What are their goals and objectives? Now, I gotta be honest with you, I think that this would probably be the first thing that we cover, because it's one of the most important things of the buyer persona. There's really 3 major things when we teach clients to at least get a fast-paced persona in place before they can do the research, and that is roles, goals, and challenges. But in this case, let's go into the tool and see what HubSpot has to say about it. So HubSpot says, why is this important? Because understanding your buyer persona, goals, challenges, and day-to-day responsibility informs what you can do to help them overcome obstacles and simplify their workflow. It also helps you develop empathy, which is a powerful force when it comes to driving them to take action. By the way, let's have a side conversation. For us, we're trying to gain trust. They need to trust us. We as a people or a company, we need to have empathy. And so there's trust and empathy, 2 major parts of the selling process that we need to make sure that we're paying attention to. But how do we fill out this section? We're going to go over here to what are their goals and objectives, and let's go ahead and fill that out. So you can see I have added to get as much milk as possible and to be profitable. Now we see what are their biggest challenges, and HubSpot has given us some default ones: employee morale, communication, resources, professional development, just to name a few. But if none of the options above apply, then you can actually fill out your own. So in our case, you see that we added maybe the kids don't want to work and the weather's horrible. And what are their job responsibilities? We want to fill that in too. And with that, we just say they make it all happen on the farm. Let's go ahead and skip to the next step. Now we get to talk about how they work. And HubSpot says understanding what tools your buyer persona loves to use can help you identify commonalities in your own products or services. It also provides insight into their operating system, both internally and externally, which is useful when positioning your marketing messaging and selecting which benefits to highlight. Let me explain that at a human level. Look, if I use the HubSpot CRM and they need a CRM, or they use the HubSpot CRM, then we have something to talk about. If I've milked cows and know what a milk machine is and how to use one, we have a common talking point. This part is really about looking at those pieces of the process or the system or the problem or the person that we can really connect with on a human level, because people in the sales process, in the marketing process, with these buyer personas, we're trying to engage with the human side of who we are and who they are. So on this page, we see that we can figure out employee scheduling software, invoicing software. Yes, I'm sure they have that. Reporting software. Yes, we need to know if we're being successful as farmer. Yes, I'm sure they use that. And then we can add additional ones if we need. Now, how do they prefer to communicate with vendors, other businesses? I'm sure with dairy farmers, it's phone. It may be a little bit of email. It's definitely text message. Why did I say phone and text message? I'm a dairy farmer. I'm in a field. I don't have a landline attached to me. It makes sense that this would be the way they would communicate. Actually, if it's a savvy dairy farmer, he might even be on Facebook Messenger. So maybe we want to check Facebook in this case. So we're going to do social media, and of course, dairy farmers, well, they do a lot of business face-to-face. So we'll select that one as well. And last but not least, we get into the step that is their consumption habits, or what do they read, or how are they educating themselves. And HubSpot says this part is important because if you're going to market and sell to your buyer persona, you need to understand how and where they consume information. In an effort to meet them where they are, you can use these insights to determine where your business should have an active presence. In other words, if you know what they're consuming, you can create content like that, however, better than that, and therefore you become their water cooler where they want to come and educate themselves, where they want to hang out, aka where they realize you are the thought leader. And then that leads into the potential sales of the product or service that solves the problem that they're trying to, well, solve. So in this case, how do they gain information for their job? And in this case, you see that, well, the newspaper, maybe they're looking at the weather, the magazine, maybe TV, didn't put that in here. But of course, they always go to, well, dairyfarmer.milk. Probably not even a website, but maybe they go there. Also, you can see what social networks they do belong to. So where we click social networks in the step before, we can now narrow it down to, hey, it's probably Facebook, and it might be something like Instagram, possibly if they're taking pictures of the sunset and the cows and the green grass. Once we get to that point, we can go ahead and what? There's no dots. The only buttons left is skip walkthrough mode, other than coming over here to the arrow, which we inherently haven't used up until this point, and click next. What happens is we come to make my persona overview where we can save this. If we click save, we get to fill out information so they know who to save it for, and we can download and export it, which again, we get to fill out information so they can get it or we can get it. But anyway, so in other words, those two buttons kind of do the same thing, but you're going to see that you can also change the color scheme. So if you are orange, like Impulse Creative, then we can change the schema to orange. We have our avatar, Dairy Guy Dan. He's 40 to 54. He's got an associate's degree. He's on Facebook and Instagram. It's the agricultural industry with 1 to 10 employees. Can you feel how we already start to know more about this person in an instant? And we're not even finished yet, because we now know the preferred methods of communication: phone, text message, social media, face-to-face. We know the job responsibilities, who he reports to. We know how they measure their job, their goals and objectives and challenges. Now, here's what's interesting about this tool. Maybe you don't need all of it. Let's dive in. I'll show you, because maybe you even need more. So now you've got this default buyer persona that the tool has helped you build, but what if you don't need the piece of information that is biggest challenge? You can hover over this and you can hit the trash can and it goes away. So you only have to build out and save the pieces that you truly want for your persona. And then this right here is magical. We can add a new section. We can give it a title. In this case, we'll call it more information about Dan. We'll grab these little dots and we'll actually drag it around where we want it to be. Or if we want to slim it down, we can put it here as well. Now, one pro thing that I want you to think about, not when you're first creating your persona, but after you get it created, after you have your research, one thing that you might want to do is the step that I'm about to take next. Everybody at some point in here should come and add a section, and we should call this section Dan's Story. And what I would do with Dan's Story is I would drag it up to the top of the persona. So when I first get here, I can see that it is Dairy Guy Dan, and I can see Dan's Story. Another way to title this might be A Day in the Life of Dan. And this is where you take all the pieces that you have below and you turn this into a story. So the marketer, the sales rep, the service rep can come in and simply go down the left sidebar, instantly start to know who they're talking about, read the story, and really understand at a human level who they are. That's an additional pro tip that you should add after you get it built. let's dive back in the tool real quick. So to say that this tool is amazing is, well, an understatement, because you can move this around and adjust it to exactly what you want, and then you can download it and save it for the future. Look, you really have no excuses. You just watched an entire walkthrough on how to build your buyer persona. HubSpot has made it super easy. You just need to make sure that you have some information at your fingertips before you get started, and have some imagination after you get done to create that story. Look, I'm your boy George B from Sprocket Talk, aka Impulse Creative. Do you like this content? Then make sure you head over to our Facebook page, private group, sprockettalk.com/FB. That will get you there so we can carry on the conversation. Make sure you check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel where you can watch other great content. And if you're a marketer, sales professional, or service pro as well, and you're on the move, you're on the go because life is busy, well, check us out on iTunes. We have an audio and video podcast there as well. Need help past this tutorial? Maybe you need a buyer persona workshop. Hey, we do that and many more. Check the description below. 1 and 2 day workshops as well as weekly training. Just go do it. Move forward. Make your buyer personas. Think about positive personas. Think about negative personas. Think about their story. Think about how you can do sales, marketing, service in a more human way. And while you're doing that, make sure you do some happy HubSpotting.